Welcome to a new episode of The Opening School. In our last episode, we analyzed the opening played in a game between Carlsen and Grishuk, two brilliant players. And in this episode, we'll take a look at a game played between top grandmasters Teimur Radjabov and Peter Svidler. The game was played at the World Blitz Championship this year, and it was an interesting game where Radjabov sacrificed a pawn in the opening and managed to retain the initiative during the entire game.
Radjabov opened up by playing the very versatile move knight to f3, giving black free roam to play almost anything. Svidler settled for g6, against which Radjabov played e4. This was followed by d6, d4, knight to f6, and knight to c3. But now the opening has developed into the Perk defense. White has chosen a rather solid central development.
Many white players are tempted to develop the c or f pawn because of black's low resistance in the center. Of course, there's nothing wrong with pushing these pawns forward, but in doing so, you leave your center sort of exposed, helping black to create opportunities to shatter the white center. So many actually prefer other solutions, just like Radjabov did in this particular game.
Radjabov decided for a more solid variation and stayed content with only pushing forward the d and e pawns. Svidler continued by playing the natural development move bishop to g7, which was followed by bishop to e2, castle kingside, a6, a4, and b6.
In positions like these, it might be hard to decide how to continue. As white, you've already succeeded in capturing the center, but at the same time, you also know that black can challenge you for it and maybe even recapture it. In this position, Radjabov decided to use his development advantage and more open position by going for the attack instead of waiting around and trying to stabilize the position.
Radjabov sacrificed a pawn by playing e5. Moves like these are often avoided since they open up a lot of squares in the center, but here white decided to act because he knows that black's development will be explosive in its attack against the white center. White also knows that this may be his last chance to use his development advantage, and that the only way to do that is by giving up the center.
Svidler accepted the sacrifice by capturing on e5, after which white recaptured and black played knight to g4. White now played h3, after which an exchange on e5 followed. The exchange opened up the possibility for white to develop his bishop on c1 by placing it on h6. In this position, many would feel tempted to exchange queens. Black is a pawn up after all, but that would leave almost all of black's pieces inactive, giving white compensation for the pawn.
Instead of capturing on d1, Svidler chose to play bishop to g7, after which white played queen to c1. This last move protects the bishop on h6, keeping the pressure on the black position. As
we see here, we've reached a point in the game where it's quite dangerous for white. The position is equalized. White has to fight and keep up the very aggressive play, because if he were to slack off for a second and let black stabilize his position, black will no longer be under any immediate threats, and what's more, he'll be a pawn up, an advantage that can often be big enough to win an entire game.
There is a reason why Radjabov is considered one of the best players in the world. In the actual game, he managed to keep Svidler under pressure, and their game is a perfect example on how to utilize your advantage as white in this position.
So if you have the chance, make sure to check that game out. And with that, we'll end this episode of The Opening School. We hope to see you again next time.